It was another hectic morning at Metromart Superstore. The sound of carts clattering and scanners beeping filled the air. But cutting through all of it was one voice, Manager Derek Miles. Proud, loud, and always on the move, Derek believed he owned the floor. He strutted through the aisles like a king surveying his kingdom, barking orders and flashing a smug grin every time an employee jumped to obey. Near the front office stood a young man holding a clipboard. Neatly dressed in a grey shirt, calm posture, polite eyes. His name tag read Ethan Cole. Derek glanced up briefly, unimpressed. "You must be the new intern," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Corporate really is sending them young these days." Ethan smiled politely. "Yes, sir. I'm just here to observe operations." Derek smirked. "Observe? More like stay out of the way while the adults work. Follow me, kid. Try not to get lost." The employees nearby exchanged nervous glances. They'd seen this movie before. Derek's arrogance was predictable, but cruel. Ethan simply nodded and followed quietly. Throughout the day, Derek treated him like background noise. When Ethan noticed an issue in the inventory system and suggested a fix, Derek laughed out loud. "Oh, look at the intern trying to sound smart. Leave the ideas to me, all right? You just take notes." Ethan's calmness never wavered, even when the manager mocked him in front of others. That quiet composure only seemed to irritate Derek more. During lunch, Derek leaned across the break room table. "So, Ethan, what are you studying? Business management? Leadership theory?" Ethan smiled. "Something like that." Derek grinned wider. "Good. Then take notes. You're looking at one of the best managers in the region." Ethan replied softly, "I believe I've learned quite a bit already." The tone was respectful, but something about the certainty behind his words made Derek's grin falter. That afternoon, a customer complained about being overcharged. Ethan politely offered to help resolve the issue, but Derek swooped in. "Don't worry, he's new, still learning how things really work." The customer frowned. He seemed to know what he was doing. Derek chuckled. "He's enthusiastic. But this is a real store, not a classroom." Ethan said nothing, only observing. Then came an announcement over the intercom. "Attention staff, corporate will be arriving for an unscheduled evaluation this afternoon." Derek straightened, brushing off his shirt. Perfect. Time to show them how a real manager runs things. He looked at Ethan with a smirk. "Stick around, intern. You might actually learn something useful." Ethan's eyes held his for a second. "Oh, I intend to." By 3 o'clock, the store was spotless. Employees lined up nervously near the entrance as Derek rehearsed his best corporate smile. The automatic doors opened, and everyone froze. The man walking in front of the corporate team wasn't a stranger. It was Ethan Cole. The quiet intern stood tall, clipboard still in hand, now wearing a confident smile. "Good afternoon," he said evenly. "I'm Ethan Cole, your new regional director." Silence. Derek's face went white. "Wait, you said you were an intern?" Ethan nodded. "I said I was here to observe operations. And I've done exactly that." The staff gasped. Ethan's voice remained calm but carried the weight of authority. "I've been visiting branches undercover to see how managers treat their teams. And what I witnessed here was eye-opening." Derek stammered, "Sir, I didn't mean to disrespect." Ethan raised his hand, silencing him. "Mr. Miles, respect doesn't depend on position. It depends on character. When you thought I was beneath you, you mocked me, dismissed my input, and humiliated your team. You didn't lead, you controlled." Derek tried to defend himself. "I was only maintaining discipline. Discipline without empathy is tyranny," Ethan cut in. "And leadership built on fear is the fastest way to lose good people." He turned to the rest of the team. "I saw employees who care deeply about this place, but they've been silenced. That ends today." Then he faced Derek again. "Effective immediately, you're suspended pending review. Corporate will determine if you're fit for any managerial position." The staff couldn't believe it. Derek's mouth opened and closed, his voice shaking. You can't be serious. I've been here 10 years. Ethan's tone was firm. And in 10 years, you never learned the simplest rule of leadership: respect everyone, especially those you think can't do anything for you. Then Ethan turned toward a young cashier named Sarah, who had quietly stepped up to defend co-workers earlier that day. Sarah, you'll serve as acting manager for now. You've already shown more leadership than most people in this room. Sarah's eyes widened. Me? But you earned it, Ethan said simply. The staff clapped softly. Derek stood frozen, humiliated, watching the power he once abused now placed in gentler hands. You planned this, Derek muttered bitterly. You came here to humiliate me. Ethan shook his head. No, I came here to find integrity. What I found was a warning sign. You still have a chance to change, Mr. Miles. Don't waste it. As Ethan left, the air in the store shifted. The staff smiled again, laughter returning where fear once lived. Derek slumped into a chair behind the counter, staring at his reflection in the computer screen. His pride shattered, his authority gone. That night, after everyone left, Derek's phone buzzed. A corporate email. He opened it, heart pounding. Subject: internal review scheduled, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Mandatory attendance. But one more line caught his eye. New evidence has surfaced regarding prior complaints. Derek's face went pale. Prior complaints, he whispered. His hands trembled. As the lights dimmed, his reflection stared back at him through the dark window. For the first time, Derek wasn't sure if tomorrow would bring redemption or ruin. And somewhere across town, Ethan sat in his office, reviewing a file marked Derek Miles, confidential. He closed it slowly, looking out at the city lights, and whispered, tomorrow, we'll find out if people really can change. Morning sunlight spilled through the glass doors of Metromart, but Derek barely noticed it. He sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the building like it was a courtroom and he was the accused. The email from last night echoed in his mind. New evidence has surfaced regarding prior complaints. His stomach turned. He had been arrogant before, yes, but prior complaints. From who? About what? He tried to convince himself this was just procedure, that maybe Ethan wanted to make a point, not destroy him. But deep down, Derek knew, this wasn't just a meeting. This was Judgment Day. At 8:59 a.m., Derek walked into the conference room, trying to hide the tremor in his hands. Ethan Cole was already there, seated at the head of the table. Calm, composed, corporate sharpness in every movement. Around him sat 2 HR officers and a woman Derek didn't recognize, someone from the ethics department. Her cold stare said enough. Good morning, Mr. Miles, Ethan greeted without warmth. Please have a seat. Derek nodded, trying to muster confidence. Of course, sir. I've reviewed the policies since yesterday. I realize I may have come across harshly at times, but my results, Ethan interrupted, his tone even. We're not here to discuss results. We're here to discuss conduct. A thick file slid across the table toward Derek. Inside, printouts, employee statements, timestamps, complaints. Derek's chest tightened. He began flipping through them, his eyes darting over the words. Belittled staff during meetings. Humiliated employees in front of customers. Used threats to enforce compliance. Each line hit harder than the last. Derek's voice wavered. These are exaggerated. I was just trying to maintain order. Ethan leaned forward. Order without respect isn't leadership, it's control. And control through humiliation destroys teams. The HR officer cleared her throat. These complaints go back nearly 18 months. There are multiple witnesses. Even customers submitted feedback about your behavior. Derek rubbed his temples. 18 months? Why wasn't I told about this before? Ethan's eyes darkened. Because people were too afraid to speak. You built a culture of silence. But not everyone stayed silent. Derek looked up sharply. What do you mean? Ethan opened a smaller folder. Inside was a single statement, handwritten. The first line made Derek's pulse spike. It was signed by Sarah, the same employee he'd seen promoted yesterday. Ethan read aloud. "He's not just strict, he's cruel. He mocks us when no one is watching. I've seen people cry in the stockroom. We deserve better." Derek swallowed hard. "She betrayed me," he muttered under his breath. Ethan's tone hardened. "No, Derek. She told the truth. There's a difference." Silence hung heavy. The HR officer finally spoke. "Corporate is considering termination, pending a final review." Derek's breath caught. Termination? After 10 years? Ethan's expression remained unreadable. Sometimes a decade of wrong can't be undone by one day of regret. Derek's hands trembled under the table. "You want me gone? You already decided." Ethan shook his head. "No, Derek. I want you to understand." He paused, lowering his voice. "Do you remember a man named Samuel Bright?" Derek frowned. "Samuel? The assistant manager? He quit 2 years ago." Ethan nodded. "He didn't quit. He filed a grievance against you. It was buried before I joined the company. But last night, I found it." Derek's face went pale. "That's impossible. That file was closed." Ethan slid a document across the table. "Not anymore." Derek skimmed the file, his eyes widening. It detailed an incident where he'd publicly humiliated Samuel during a corporate visit, leading to Samuel's resignation and hospitalization for stress. Ethan's voice softened, but his words cut deep. "Samuel was my friend, Derek. We trained together at Metromart's Leadership Academy. When I took this position, I made it my mission to find out why good people kept leaving this company." Derek leaned back, speechless. The realization hit him like a brick. This wasn't random. This was personal. Ethan's investigation wasn't just about policy. It was about closure. After a long silence, Ethan finally said, "Derek, you built your success on fear. But fear doesn't last. Respect does. I'm giving you one last choice. Step down quietly, or corporate will proceed with full disciplinary action. Either way, the truth comes out." Derek looked up slowly, his voice shaking. "You're doing this for revenge, aren't you?" Ethan's eyes narrowed. "No, I'm doing this for justice." The words echoed through the room like a verdict. Derek exhaled, defeated. "Fine," he said softly. "I'll resign. But don't think this makes you a hero. You're not the saint you think you are." Ethan studied him carefully. "Maybe not. But at least I learned from your example what not to become." Ethan gathered the files, stood, and left the room without another word. Derek sat alone, staring at the papers that defined the end of his career. For the first time in years, he didn't feel powerful. He felt empty. But as the HR officers packed up, the woman from ethics slipped an envelope toward Ethan's empty chair. Her voice was quiet, almost hesitant. "Mr. Cole requested this file be reopened, but there's something he didn't see. It concerns him." Derek's head snapped up. "What do you mean?" She gave a faint smile. "It appears Ethan's name was mentioned in an older report, filed by another manager 2 years ago. A complaint that was never resolved." Derek's pulse quickened. "A complaint about him?" The woman nodded. "Yes. Something about manipulation." As she walked out, Derek's hands clenched around the armrest. For the first time, the power dynamic shifted again, ever so slightly. Ethan wasn't spotless. And Derek suddenly realized this story wasn't over. He stared at the door where Ethan had just left, whispering to himself, "You think you're untouchable, Cole? Let's see how clean your hands really are." To be continued. Follow for part 2, The Secret File.